Thanks for tuning into this presentation. What we're going to discuss is the status of our climate and the drought, where we've come from and where we are today. This update is relevant for February 2017. The map you see here is the current status of the drought as of February 7th. You can see across the southern half of California, an area of drought remains, but as you'll see in the next few slides, it has improved considerably. So where have we been? Well, starting after the wet season of 2011, the drought took over and spread across almost all of the West by November 2012. 13 and 14, we saw the drought become more severe and peak out for most areas in 2014 and the early part of 2015. Following a wet year across Northern California and the Pacific Northwest in 2016 winter, we saw much improvement across that area. Now, when we talk about the drought, we need to consider a lot of things. That includes our water basins and the watersheds that bring that water to us. A lot of that water for San Diego County is out of the Colorado River. For most of us in California, it's out of the Sacramento River, the Sierra Nevada, and the mountains of California. Now, when we also talk about drought, we need to look at our rainfall deficits. Some of these deficits may not be possible to completely remove. However, as you can see across our region of Southern California, places such as Santa Ana have massive deficits of rainfall despite what we see in the green column here, rainfall now above normal for the entire season. So in other words, we've already seen our normal water year rainfall and then some in some of our climate locations. Unfortunately, however, we are in a deficit, and some areas see 1 to 2 seasons of rainfall over the past 6 years that has been lost. However, of course, the deficits don't tell the only story in the drought, but they are important to consider. The good thing is that this current year is making significant progress on the drought. When we look at other locations across Southern California, as shown here, we can see the same story. Basically, those climate locations are 90 to 100% of normal for this water year, 2016-17. Much more, in fact, in some cases double from last year, such as Redlands. But those areas also have deficits that are significant, anywhere from 1 to 2 seasons. Precipitation is not the only thing that factors into a drought, and we don't have time to go into the details of temperatures. But in yellow, you see that Big Bear, the past 3 years, their average low temperatures have been record warm, as noted below. All right, last year I mentioned a wet year of 2015 and 16. That was for Northern California. We saw massive increases in reservoir supplies from record lows of around 20% of capacity all the way up to being nearly full by April of 2016. Of course, a lot of that water was used during the summer of 2016, and we kind of reset for the next water year. How are we doing now? In this water year, February 2017, you can see most of our major reservoirs across California are at the historical average, which is the red line, or in most cases above that average. So in other words, there are significant releases of that water going on, because keep in mind these reservoirs often act as flood prevention and also water supply. Now down in Southern California, you can see that reservoirs have also made significant increases, such as the Diamond Valley Reservoir, which is a massive reservoir around Temecula, up around 75%. That is up from the 36% low that we saw a couple years ago. We can owe most of these gains in our reservoirs to the significant rain and snow we've seen this year so far. The areas in purple are exceeding 200% of normal, so twice as much is what they normally get in those areas has been received. Really, you can see all of California is in the same boat, and this extends across far northern Utah up into Montana as well. Parts of the Colorado Basin also have done well with the rain and snow, as shown here in the blue and some of that purple shading. Here's another view of our region of Southern California, and this is since the beginning of the water year, October 1st. You can see that most of our region is, when we zoomed up, 150% to about 200% of normal, with a few exceptions. Now, what have you done for me lately? You can see on this map here that across central, southern California, and really all of the Four Corners region, it's been really wet over the past several weeks. And when we look at here, December 8th all the way through most currently, you can see this region has been much above normal. And the area in the Pacific Northwest, which was very wet last year, is actually running below normal for that duration. Now, drought and snow go hand in hand. 2014 and 15 was a record low snowfall year in the Sierra Nevada of California. About 5% of the average snowpack occurred that year by April 1st. This year, you can see we're at the top of this chart. We are exceeding normal and exceeding last winter, 2015 and 16. Most of the basins have about 150 to 200% of normal, or almost double the actual snowpack they should have this time of year, based on the 30-year average. When we look at it a little bit closer, and now we include some of the very wet years like 82, 83, and even the 97, 98 winter, you can see 2017 in the circled area is running neck and neck with 82, 83 as one of the wettest years and also the most significant snowpack years. Of course, we still have a considerable amount of the winter to go, and most importantly, the April 1st snowpack. Speaking of precipitation in the Sierra Nevada, take a look at this map. You can see we are on pace to be one of the wettest years in the core region of the Sierra Nevada. The green line is the 82-83 year, which is the wettest in California modern history. And this includes not just snow, but also rainfall across those key locations of Northern California. We can see right now we are just over 60 inches, where the annual average is 50. How about in our region in San Diego County? We are finally now starting to see reservoir increases. Most of the reservoir capacity, when you average them all together, is sitting around 50%. You may have noticed some of your local reservoirs that have increased since the recent rainfalls in January. One thing to keep in mind in the San Diego region, again, is that our local water supply is a small percentage of what we actually use, and a lot of our water is coming from the Colorado, and then of course the rest coming from the State Water Project or the Sierra Nevada drainage. Thanks for watching this presentation on the state of the climate and the drought recovery. Here are some resources used in this presentation that you might find valuable for future updates. It's always wise to practice conservation of water, and there's also a link on here for some of the programs available. Thanks for tuning in and supporting Weather Ready Nation.